Hello and welcome to the OTB channel. Do you ever have to do video editing, and do you perhaps use Kdenlive? Well, that's the situation I found myself in over the last 6 or 7 months, but no longer. I'll tell you why after the intro. Hello and welcome back. Right, rant alert, people. This video was, it came about because of the problems I've been having with Kdenlive recently. When I first started the channel, I did a review of different video editors in Linux. And I looked at Kdenlive, I looked at Openshot, I looked at Shotcut, and I also along the way took a look at Olive. And initially, I decided to stay with Openshot, which was a bit clunky, but it seemed to work well and it was nice and simple. But after a month or two, I wanted to do lots of other things with the video editor. My needs became more complex and I eventually moved over to Kdenlive. And as you all know, it's sort of the default video editor for many people who use Linux. And if you get the right version, it's stable, it does everything you want, it has a load of effects, and it's really very, very powerful. If it's stable is the big thing here. I've found over the course of the last 6 or 7 months on my Arch system that I'm constantly swapping and changing from the version in the repos over to a flat pack because the version in the repos doesn't work, or the flat pack causes me problems, so I'm swapping back. Anyway, I've updated my Arch system, and the latest version, I think it's 2004, has just come down, and it is very crashy. I've had enough. So I've decided to look at what the competition now offers and to see what it might be worth making a move to, because I can't cope with a program crashing. I can't cope with a program crashing on me all the time. Truth be known, I hate video editing. I enjoy making the videos, but spending the hours putting it together I find really draining. So I want a program that does it fast, isn't going to crash on me, and just does the job. I don't need incredibly powerful features. I just need to be able to slice and dice the video, chuck in a few effects and overlays, play around with the volume, and I'm more or less there. So I decided to line up a few different ones. Let's see how I got on. And we'll start with Kdenlive. Right, so you should see in front of you Kdenlive. This is the version from the Arch repos 20.04. And let's perform a simple video edit. I have 3 files here. I have my animated introduction that I use in most of my videos. I have the introduction from the previous video I did on Cinnamon, Ubuntu Cinnamon. And I have a .mov file, which is the subscribe animation that I include somewhere near the beginning of my videos and which I bought off Fiverr. So I want to do a couple of things. I want to bring the intro in. I want to split it and insert the animated introduction in between it. And I also want to put in the MOV file and transform it a little bit and manipulate the size and the position. So let's start off with the intro. I'm going to bring this in and let's just chop this halfway through, and it's very easy in Kdenlive. I just do Shift R, job done, and I can pull it completely apart. I do like the way that you have the option to separate your audio waveform in Kdenlive, because I often cut my videos according to where the volume is, or where the audio is. Right, let's now bring in my introduction. Now, I don't actually want to play anything at the moment because if I play one of these videos in Kdenlive, it's going to mess up the audio on this video. So let's just put the video head over there and just quite simply sandwich the introduction between the two different parts of the intro. Okay, all good so far. I now want to bring in my MOV file. Now, this MOV file is essentially, let me just mute the audio here and you should see what it actually is meant to be about. It's this, but you can see it's completely wrong as far as the size is concerned. So I'm going to click on that MOV file and I'm going to right click and insert an effect and go for transform. Now, amazingly, this has worked this time, but often it doesn't work, and I have to delete the clip and insert it and reinsert it multiple times. So I'm just going to play around with this box, and if we just hit play, I want to see where it is, and Kdenlive has crashed. So that was one of the reasons why I'm looking for a replacement. So do I want to recover? Yes, I want to recover. Thank you. Right, so let us try and play now, and it's not going to do it. Let's try once more, and we'll re-add the files and do it from scratch. Yes, recover my files, but let's get rid of everything and do it again. I'm glad that happened because you can now see what I've been working with. So let's go there. Let's break it up by doing Shift R. Let's pull that over there. Let's bring down the introduction. And okay, all good so far. Now let's try bringing the MOV file in again. So keep your fingers crossed on this. Okay, I'm highlighting it. I want to insert an effect and I want to hit transform. Will it let me do this at all? In fact, it's not doing anything at all at the moment. There we go. So the transform hasn't actually taken effect, so I'm clicking on it again. And let's just play it and see what it looks like. It's going to crash again, I can tell. Yeah. So you can see what I'm working with. This is why I'm getting so sick of Kdenlive crashing on me all the time. It's crazy. So let's just move out of there and let's hit play. I can already see it's far. Do you know, I've been working with this for several months now and Kdenlive has been like this. Okay, so I've tried numerous times and I'm just not managing to get any further on Kdenlive. It's just crashing as soon as I try and edit that .mov file. I did an update to my system yesterday. I don't know if the latest version of Kdenlive came down, but clearly it's problematic. So rather than messing around with uninstalling it and trying to install the flat pack, let's go to another video editor, and you can see in front of you I've got Shotcut here. So exactly the same clips. Let's just bring them down. And I want to add another video track. Let's cut this, and to cut it, I simply hit the S key. All good. Let's bring my introduction down. So far, so good. And let's bring that troublesome MOV file down. So, and put that, I don't know, anywhere. It doesn't really matter. And you can already see that it's too big. It's massively too big. So how we work with this in Shotcut is I go to filters, I add a filter, and what I want to change is the size, so size and position. Double click on that, and it gives me the option here to make it smaller, and I can also put it in the right place. So let me just mute the audio so that you can see what I ultimately want this to do. All good. It's not freezing up like Kdenlive's doing. And now we're going to the introduction. Great. Now, one of the things that I do know about the introduction is it's a little bit too loud. So I always like to bring the volume down slightly. So I've highlighted that, and I'm again going to go to filters, and I'm just going to search for volume. And double click that, and I'm going to do -10. Okay, so that's -10 all the way along now. Right, so I've brought in a clip, I've split it, I've put an additional clip in the middle of it, and I've added a mod file, transformed it, and I've brought the gain down on one of the clips. Let's see how it renders. So I'm just going to export this job. The thing I like about Shotcut is it has a hardware encoder, and it's set up to H.264 VAPI, VA API. And I'm just going to select the YouTube output, which is a preset, and I'm going to export the file into my video files, video directory, and it's called Shotcut MP4. So I want to time it, and I also want to look at how the CPU increases. So let's just save that and see what happens. So the CPU is currently floating around 22. I'm starting the top stopwatch now. It's up to 73% the CPU. 75. Let's see if it gets any higher. I have to say, oh, it's dropped now to 68. Kdenlive has been 99, 100 all the way, and absolutely battering my little box. This is 75, 80. I've done a few tests now, and 85, okay, it's spiked at that, but it won't tend to stay there. It'll come down, and it's gone to 24. So let's wait until it's done this. In fact, it's done it already, and that was around 40 seconds. In fact, helpfully, I didn't even need the stopwatch because I can see over here in the top corner, it's done 46 seconds. And 46 seconds for what is a 5-minute and 9-second video. So that's pretty good. Let's have a look and see what the size of the file is. So there's Shotcut. And the size of the file is 14.9 megs. How does that look? Well, let's take a quick view of VLC. Looks good to me. So Shotcut, there's a viable alternative. Right, so you'll see Openshot now in front of you, which is the next contender. Again, just installed from the Arch repos. I've got version 2.5.1 installed. There's been quite a few improvements to Openshot over the past 7 or 8 months. One of the big things from version 2.5 onwards is, like Shotcut, it can do hardware encoding using the VA API. So all good. So let's just get on with this. I've got the same 3 files in, so let's bring down my intro file. All good. Let's just increase the size a little bit, perhaps not that much. I can't remember what the shortcut is for Zoom, but it doesn't matter. So let's just put the playhead there, and Control K splits the playhead. Okay, so far so good. Let's also now bring in my intro. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to undo that because I don't want a transition happening. And what Openshot does, if you overlap sections, it will automatically add a transition. Okay, so there we go. So the intro's split into 2, and I've got my introduction there. I want to reduce the volume of that. Usefully, I can right-click it, hit volume, entire clip, and I can reduce it to whatever I want. Let's say 70%. All good. Right, let's get on to that troublesome MOV file. So let's bring that down and shove it somewhere here. And great, you can see it's not the correct size. Now, with Openshot, it will allow you to transform the size of MOV files, no problem. But if I started to transform it at this point, it will insert a keyframe where the playhead is. And so it will not be consistent throughout the video. What you have to do is to make sure that your playhead is in the first frame of the video, which is great. Unfortunately, I can't see that anymore. So what you have to do is you have to play around a little bit. And I know myself what the settings are. I know that I need to go to my properties box here, and I need to search in location, and it should be 0.03 or minus 0.03. Okay, and the Y location should be 0.08. So not quite as you would hope. Also, what else do I have to do? I need to do a scale factor, and I want to bring it down to 0.7 and Y to 0.7 as well. And let's just see what that looks like now. I'm wondering if I can actually mute the video. So let's have a look at the volume. Entire clip, let's just set it to 0 for the time being. And let's just play this. Okay, doesn't look bad. Let me set the volume back to what it should be. Entire clip, I'll just put it back to 100%. So it's handled the MOV file okay. Slightly different way of working here, but it's just a case of getting used to how you do it. Let's hit export. The folder path, well, I want it to go to videos. So, and what do we want to call it? I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to call it, well, Openshot. Actually, I don't think I put that there. I think I put that up here. Openshot. The target, yeah, MP4. However, I want to make the most of the hardware encoding here. So I'm going to do MP4 VA API, and that's the one. Okay, good. Video profile 720. I don't want it to be 720. I want it to be 1080 by 30 frames a second. So there we go. You only get 3 choices here as far as the quality is concerned: low, medium or high. Well, I went for the standard default YouTube output on Shotcut. I'm just going to select medium here, and I'm going to export the video and hit the stopwatch. So export, and I'm starting the stopwatch off. And I'm looking at my CPU. It's climbed up to 72 now. It's up 75 now. 64, so it's dropped back down. It's not battering it. 67, it seems to have leveled out a little bit. 66. And it seems to be relatively fast. So all good. You'll notice the temperature on this NUC is quite high. They run incredibly hot because there's so little space in there for airflow. 69, 63, so it's not battering the CPU by any stretch of the imagination. And we're done, and I'm stopping the clock. And I can tell you now that's 56 seconds. So it's taken a little bit longer than Shotcut, but it all depends what we've got. So, where is Openshot? Here we go. How big is it? Right, so even on the medium settings, it's produced 26.7 megs as opposed to Shotcut, which produced 14.9 megs. What does it look like? Well, let's have a quick look. Hello, and welcome to the OTB. I'm just muting that. It looks fine. Okay, so it's a contender. It feels to me a little more clunky than Kdenlive and Shotcut, but it does the job. And now that it's got hardware rendering, it makes it a real contender. Right, you should see now in front of you the third contender, the Olive Video Editor. Now, to be fair, this is still in alpha, so my expectations of it aren't massive. I did try it, though, about 6 months ago or so, and I was quite impressed at what it was like. So worth giving a go. I don't believe it does hardware rendering. I think it's still CPU rendering. So I'm bringing down the first track, the intro, and looking for a place to cut it. And I believe Control K is the shortcut. And then if I highlight that, I should be able to move that away, which I can. Okay, good. Let's also bring down the video. Sorry, the introductory video, and sandwich it between the two ends of the introduction. So, all good. Right, whilst we're here, let's do the volume. Now, you can see on the video effects here, well, I've got a place for volume effects, and I can set it to, let's say minus 10 dB. So that's all good. Minus 10 dB throughout that. Yeah, and it just relates to that clip. So, okay, it's a slightly different way of doing it, but let's bring down this problematic MOV file. Right, I want to actually get rid of the volume at the moment. So how do I disable the audio? And I can't at the moment see any way to to just simply mute the audio. I'm looking along here and there doesn't seem to be anything. Okay, well, we'll work with that. But what you can see is I've brought in this MOV file. And for some reason, it's actually smaller. So let me just highlight that and let me move it around. Make it slightly bigger, perhaps. You'll have to excuse the audio on this because, unfortunately, I can't see a way to mute it at the moment. But
are you a fan of the Cinnamon desktop environment?
Okay. I would play around with that to get it exactly as I wanted, but essentially that does it. So I've split my introduction clip. I've inserted my animated introduction. I've reduced the volume and I've played around with the position and size of the MOV file. So let's get on now and let's export it. So File, Export, and this is what we get. Now, most of this I'm going to leave pretty much as standard, but you will find that the quality, right from the word go, is 36. It says 23 is high quality, 51 is the lowest possible, and 0 is, well, lossless. Do you know, I'm going to set this on 23, which I believe is about the same as Kdenlive. I'm going to hit export, and it asks me where do I want to export it to. Well, I'm going to go to videos again, and this time I'm just going to call this Olive. It's coming out as an MP4. I'm ready to hit the stopwatch. Let me hit save, and that's the stopwatch going. And CPU is only 19% at the moment. Up, and then it's jumped to 95%, which I'm not overly surprised about because it's using CPU encoding. But it's cracking on. It seems to be going quite fast. 94% CPU. 97% CPU, so you can definitely tell it hasn't got hardware encoding. It would be nice if that's a feature that's eventually added. We're looking at 41 seconds now, and it's only just over 40% of the way through. So this is where your hardware encoding really starts to tell. 51%, 52%. Yeah. And we're still at a steady 96% on the CPU. Okay, it's just dropped to 94%. Hey, it's taken a long time. Now, this is just with a quick 5-minute clip. Imagine what it's like when I've got a 40-minute clip. With Kdenlive, that can take me up to an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes sometimes. But we're getting there. CPU staying in the high 90s all the way through. And but we're almost there. We're at 90% now. And I've got my mouse over the stopwatch ready to stop it as soon as it hits 100. And we got to 1 minute 37. Okay, so let's go and have a look at our file, and there it is, Olive. Let's open it up in VLC Player, and let's immediately mute it. And that looks to be playing fine to me. So we set it to 23, the quality. Let's just have a look at how big that file is. 9.5 megs. So that's the smallest of the lot. So to remind you, Shotcut was 14.9 megs. Openshot was 26.7 megs. And Olive was only 9.5 megs, which is pretty good. Before we finish, let's give Kdenlive one more try. I've tried many times with that MOV file, and this particular version of Kdenlive just isn't playing. So I've kept it simple. I've just put the intro clip in. I've split it by doing Shift R. I've put in the introduction, and in order to reduce the volume, all I would actually do is I would insert an effect, and hopefully I should have a volume effect there, and I can bring it down to 10, minus 10. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm really not going to mess about anymore with Kdenlive. We shall just render it and see what happens. So I'm going to pick MP4. I'm going to call the MP4 Kdenlive. I'm going to look at my options. It's set automatically for 23 at the moment, which was the same as Olive. So let's hit render to file, and I will hit the stopwatch now. And let's watch what's happening. So my CPU is immediately climbing to 92%. And it tells me my remaining time is 1:08. That doesn't tend to be that accurate, so I pretty much ignore that. Let's just see what happens. CPU now at 96%. So again, this and Shotcut, sorry, not Shotcut, this and Olive shows the difference. It's putting much more load on the CPU, and it's a lot slower. We'll come back in a second when it's done. Right, so finally, Kdenlive has managed to render that video. It took 2 minutes and 37 seconds. It's had less to render than the other programs because it hasn't had the MOV file in to worry about. And yes, it doesn't use hardware encoding, but neither does Olive. Olive managed to do it in 1 minute 37. Whereas this has done it in 2 minutes 37. So not that impressive. Let's see what it's actually produced. So there's our Kdenlive MP4. How big is it? It's 14.4 megs. Okay, so 14.4 megs. It's bigger than the Olive file. It's about the same as the Shotcut file. But as I said, it's not even had the MOV file in there to render. Let's play it and let's see how it does, or how it's done.
Hello and welcome to the OT.
Yeah, it's fine, but we haven't got the animation there, of course. Right, so that was interesting. Not exactly scientific. It was back of a fag packet research. But nevertheless, I think I've found what I needed to find out. And I'm sure you won't be surprised, this video has been rendered in Shotcut. Running through the list, Kdenlive took the longest of any of the programs to render at 2 minutes 37, followed by Olive at 1 minute 37. Neither of those use hardware rendering, it's CPU only. Olive produced the smallest video file of 9.5 megs, and Kdenlive at 14.4 megs. Interesting as the quality setting was the same, but Kdenlive produced a bigger video. Openshot and Shotcut were both quite fast in comparison because both of them can access the VA API and do hardware rendering. Openshot produced a 26.7 meg file, so quite big, but you only get the choice of low, medium, high with that, so you can't tweak the quality setting, but it was fine, and it only took 56 seconds to render. And Shotcut came out on top with 46 seconds to render, so the fastest, and 14.9 megabytes. So in fact, pretty much the same as the Kdenlive image or video that was produced. All of them, except for Kdenlive, could transform and change the shape of the MOV file. Now, I know the MOV file is an Apple format, so you might ask, well, why should it have to do that? Well, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to have a mixture of different files. The way that I tend to work is I use OBS, and the files that I put out by OBS, I use the MKV format, which seems to result in quick rendering and reasonable quality. The MOV file was something that I bought on Fiverr, and I'm going to have to play around with changing it to an MP4 or something, but I've never had to up until now. But to work with a program that can't even play it, I mean, as you get each new version, you expect it to be improved. And I'm just at the end of my tether. Kdenlive, as powerful as it is, and as brilliant and intuitive as it is when it's working well, is just crashy too often and has too many problems in my experience. So I'm leaving it behind, and for the time being, I'm moving over to Shotcut. And if Olive ever gets hardware rendering, which I'm sure it will at some point, I may well look at that as well. Openshot did a good job. I just got the feeling it's a bit clunky to work with the interface, and I felt more comfortable with Shotcut. So, choice made. What do you think? What's your favourite? I know there's others out there. What you have to remember, though, is I'm working on a little Intel NUC. It runs very hot. There's not much space in the box. It's quite conservative hardware, and the likes of Lightworks or DaVinci Resolve would no doubt struggle on it if they might not work at all. So I prefer to stay with some program that will cope with my hardware. And for the time being, it's Shotcut. So that's it for today. Rant over. Don't forget to join me on Library and come and join us on the OldTechBloke Facebook group. I will see you tomorrow. I think a ramble might be in the offing. See you tomorrow, guys.